What's fascinating about Austin Matthews is that he's the NHLer that other NHLers study the most. Now, why is that? Is it because he comes from the desert, moves differently, and invented a new style of shooting? Or is it because he seems so effortless? Well, today we're not just going to break down each of his goals from the 2022-2023 season. We're going to do a deep dive into the artistry and science behind his 40 goals. And by the end, you might be surprised to see that a significant chunk of his success comes down to a select few techniques deployed consistently and with surgical precision. Now, what's even better is that you are a player wanting to learn from the greats, like Kobe Bryant did, who learned from Michael Jordan. Well, we'll show you how you can learn from Matthews to develop the mechanics and the patterns that can unlock more goal scoring for you. Now, if you're new here, my name is Jason Yee. I'm a kinesiologist and former pro hockey player, and I do breakdowns like these so that I can learn from the greats in the game, but also so that I can teach my players to learn from the greats in the game too. The fundamental algorithm here is to copy what works for others and then learn how to do it yourself. So let's dive in. So touching back on the Michael Jordan piece, one thing we see from Michael Jordan, and I heard this via the Founders Podcast by David Senra, Jordan says, I couldn't have done what I did without learning from the people that came before me. And talking about Kobe Bryant, at the time when people were saying Kobe Bryant is copying you, he says, stop saying Kobe is copying me. We all copied someone. And I know that top hockey players do, but I don't always hear that talked about. So that was a really interesting thing, that the best in the game, the best athletes learn from the greats that come before. And that's what we are doing today. So getting into the different patterns that we see, there's really 4 patterns that Matthews deploys, which is inside the dot, relentless repositioning, inside the dot, attacking, and then we see a group of highlight reel goals, which are hard to classify. That just really comes down to his amazing skill. And then, of course, empty netters. But what was really surprising to me in looking at his 40 goals was how much of his goals came from inside the dots. And his pattern that he actually used to get there and his skating mechanics that he would use to get there. And what's really, really surprising is the relationship between the type of goal and the pattern that he was using and how many times it happened. So we actually see an 80-20 relationship, approximately 31 goals using 2 patterns, which is just under 80%. And then his other 22-ish% goals coming from highlight reels and empty netters. So there's a remarkable consistency that he is using. And so when we look at these different patterns, one of the things we see is just how much he's scoring from inside the dots. Really surprising that of all of his goals, all 40 goals, there was like 1 that was outside of the dots and 2-ish that were behind the goal line. So let's actually dig into what these patterns are and how you can do it yourself. So this goal is an example of relentless repositioning. A couple key parts of it is that the puck is in the zone, he stays inside the dots, he attacks the net, then resets, and then he's using a catch and release one-timer. So let's see if all those things are true. So the puck is in the zone, he attacks the net, but then he resets, and then it's a catch and release. So those are the key parts of this pattern, which is the inside the dot, relentless repositioning. Here's another great example of that pattern. So we see him inside the dots. That's the first key. The second part is as the puck comes up, he moves and repositions himself towards the net, and then he's remaining inside the dots, and he's, again, catching and releasing or having a one-timer. And now, as I'm saying this, you might be like, oh my goodness, this is an extraordinarily simple pattern. And it's true. Here's another great example. Notice that he repositions and he attacks the net inside the dots. And it's very, very simple because all he's doing is he's repositioning himself back up, and then as the puck comes higher, he is also coming higher, and then he just attacks the net through the middle, inside the dots. And this generates over 20 of his goals out of his 40-goal season, which is incredible. Just a very simple pattern of attacking the net, repositioning, reattacking through the dots. It's really remarkable how much this happens. Here's another great example. He goes to the net, he repositions, and then he scores in the middle. And now coming back, I want to show you how this pattern really maps. So a lot of players, one is they don't want to attack the dots. Like they stay outside. So that's one really simple trick that you can do. But the other thing that a lot of players will do is that when they go to the net, they stop and they end up in the corner, or they go behind, or they go like into the corner. Why we call this the relentless repositioning is because what you can see is as the puck goes to the net, so too does Matthews. But then when the puck doesn't actually make it to the net, you'll notice that he repositions himself up and then reattacks like this. So let's play that out. Repositions up and then reattacks the net. And you'll see him do this pattern again and again and again and again, where the puck goes to the net, it doesn't make it to the net, and he repositions himself, and then he scores. And I want to draw this out for you one more time because repetition is persuasive. If you watch the puck here, the puck comes back up high, so Matthews repositions himself. Then he reattacks the net, and then he scores. Now the second pattern that he uses is what we like to call attacking through the dots, but it's just like the attack. And this happened 11 times in his 2022-2023 season, which is typically on the rush. He, again, stays inside the dot. He's usually a late attacker, and he has a catch and release or one-timer. So let's see if this checks all the boxes. So he's on the rush. He's a late attacker. He's inside the dots, catch and release. And that is the new style of shot that we talk about that a lot of NHLers are emulating now, which is that outside edge release, where he's shooting off of the outside edge of his right foot. So that's the second pattern that we see happen again and again and again. Now the last pattern that we see are highlight reel goals. Highlight reel goals like this, where he's carrying the puck and he's ripping around and scoring really nice goals. The reason I classified these as just highlight reel goals is because they're either breakaways or he's holding possession of the puck and making a really nice move. Something that is hard to classify as a pattern and really requires a ton of skill. And, I again wanted to bring attention to the fact that 80% of results, 80% of Matthews' goals came from 20% of patterns. Now let's look at exactly where he was shooting from and then the mechanics that he used to get there. So each of these terms, a cross, a corkscrew, a 10 and 2, is a language, a descriptive piece of language that I give to footwork that Matthews is using, but all NHL players use, to move around the ice and execute the patterns. So cross, corkscrew, 10 and 2, we're going to work through those. And again, you'll see another 80-20 relationship where corkscrew edge drags and cross corkscrew 10 and 2 make up about 80% of the mechanics used on the inside the dot relentless repositioning and the inside the dot attack. And what you see in every single one of these goals is a corkscrew, 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 and the second most common is the 10 and 2, and then edge drags. So those are the second most common mechanics. So let's walk through what some of those are. Now this is actually a highlight reel goal here, but I can use it to demonstrate what a corkscrew is. So this is a corkscrew where we actually have feet planted. We're not actually lifting them, and we're dragging edges in like this. And that is actually what an edge drag is. And this is how the best players in the game actually move, is with corkscrews and with edge drags. So you can see he did not lift his feet once, and he navigated from here to here with his feet completely planted, using his heels and dragging his edges in order to get around. Here's another great example where you can see he's just using little corkscrews and little 10 and 2s, and he takes one stride there, but he keeps himself wide in a corkscrew and is able to catch and release just because of that. Now that relates back to the relentless repositioning. So if I were to classify that one, that would be inside the dots, relentless repositioning. Here's another great example of a highlight reel goal, but even still, you'll notice that it's inside the dots, and it's just incredible how often he's getting to shoot from inside the dots. And now coming back to the inside the dots, relentless repositioning. Pay attention to the mechanics that he's using. So he's using a cross, he's using outside edge, he's edge dragging in a corkscrew, and then releasing. So what you can see is that it's actually very simple mechanics and very simple patterns, like very, very simple patterns, and you can learn by watching. Now, if you're a player or a coach, I suggest you watch all 40 of his videos and study them yourself. These videos, like this one that I'm doing for you right now, help to unlock different insights, different perceptions. Because I have a background in kinesiology and movement science, I might be able to help communicate what might be invisible to some. A big reason that we do that is because of what we call the pyramid. And what we see at the top is the patterns, right? So that's what we just looked at. And this is where players skate, where they shoot from, where they place their shot on the net. What enables that is mechanics stacks, the mechanics that players combine to achieve these patterns. So you have to be able to do the mechanic stacks in order to execute the patterns. Then we have this base of mechanics, movements that enable the mechanic combinations, which enable the patterns, right? So this enables this, and this enables this. And we give those mechanics a descriptive language so that players can isolate the specific mechanics that are insufficient, and then they can actually train them. And so this is the time to talk about how this video was sponsored by Train 2.0 Plus, which is a private community with coaching to accelerate your hockey development. And it makes use of this pyramid for the pattern of the pros. And what we teach you inside of the Train 2.0 Plus membership is how to isolate and develop your insufficient mechanics that hold you back from executing these patterns so that you can go and execute them, just like Matthews. So it's really like the cheat code. It like compresses the time that it takes for you to learn these things, so you don't have to do all the research yourself. Leave that to us, and we can show you the exact drills that will make a huge difference. So with that, I hope you learned something new today. Thank you very much. And if you're interested in the Train 2.0 Plus community and membership, make sure to click the link to get started and compress your hockey development time. Thanks for watching.